Good afternoon, everybody. I'm sending you my warm regards from South Florida, near Miami in USA. And we are so thankful that we have this opportunity to engage synchronously live with all of you. So thank you for staying on. This is the last session, as I understand. So let me advance forward. And my name is Yaping Gao, and in my current position, I serve as the Senior Academic Director. I oversee all member services and partnerships, and my focus is on the community outside the USA. And I'm going to turn to my colleague, Dr. Senior.
Well, greetings. It's a real pleasure to be virtually at least visiting this time. Hopefully, at some point, we'll get to physically visit South Africa. Happy to be here. Happy to be part of this event. I represent QM in the region of Latin America and the Caribbean. I'm originally from the Caribbean, and because I'm a learning designer and strategist, I chose and I requested QM really to be their promoter in the region because I find that it's very valuable, the guidelines and the standards and basically the roadmap that they provide for developing quality online instruction. So happy to be here in representation of QM as well.
Dr. Senior, you want to continue on this one?
Yes, sure. This is the outline of, just to give you a heads up of what we intend to do in this session. First, provide an introduction to QM. What do we offer, what are the bases, and how do we contribute to quality online education? Then we're going to make two distinctions of moments in which QM also stepped forward in supporting institutions to migrate into remote teaching, which caught up the entire world into this modality. And the second phase that we offered to help migrate then from the remote emergency teaching to a more quality online learning. We're going to have some activities around the actual standards for design of online courses. And then we're going to come back and discuss some trends about higher ed, question and answers, and then some takeaways, resources, and I think there's some prices that also that we'll be offering as well.
Thank you, Dr. Senior. And so this is the slide that I'm mostly proud to share every time that I get an opportunity to present or speak on behalf of QM. QM is a nonprofit quality assurance organization. We're based in US, but as you can see, our members are really, all over the world, and we are so proud. As I shared in the chat, we already have some institutions in South Africa that are QM members, and if you happen to be from those institutions, if you can say a little hi in the chat, we would really appreciate that. And hopefully, one day soon, we would be able to welcome University of Pretoria to the QM community in South Africa. So very proud. So I just want us to have a framework before we go into detail that conceptually, thinking about what is quality, now that everybody has been forced to do some sort of remote teaching. Moving forward, we really need to think about the quality. So as academic institutions, no matter what department you're working or what specific roles that you have, the mission is teaching and learning, right? Our common goal is really to help our students. So think about if you're a faculty, you are teaching at the course level, day in and day out, and these are your concerns. objectives assessment, etc. And if you are a dean, if you are a person in charge of a program, you would think about the outcome and competency, etc. But if you are a higher level officer, if you are the president, if you're the VPAA, etc., your top priority is, of course, institutional accreditation, enrollment, completion rate, etc. So as we go into more detail, just keep this in mind that no matter what you are doing or what role you have at your institution, you are contributing to the quality teaching and learning at your institution. In 1 minute, if somebody asks me what is QM and what does QM do, I would share that QM is a nonprofit organization, as I mentioned, and we have 5 sets of research-supported rubric and standards for higher education, publisher, for K-12, K-12 publisher, and continuing and professional education. For this particular workshop, since we are focused on higher education, that's where you are all from, then we will use the higher education standards as an example. Based on the rubric and the standards, etc., QM offers many different types of professional development offerings, workshops, seminars, and the pathways. So it depends on the role that you have at your institution, or depend on the goal that you have for yourself, for your programs. We have a lot of PD. And then the third piece, which is really more and more important moving forward, because we're still in the pandemic, but post the pandemic, everybody is going to say, yeah, I have been teaching online, teaching remotely. So who's going to say that your program or your courses are of better quality than the others? So there's a lot of benchmarking that needs to be done, and maybe there is a competition in the future. So the QM peer review process for courses and the programs are going to become more and more important, because we do peer review, meaning if you submit a course for QM to review, the peer reviews are faculties like you in the field who has experience in online education, but also are QM, specifically QM certified to have that role. So we do this at the course level as well as program level. The overall mission and the goal of QM Quality Matters is to help institutions from where they are right now to where they want to go, as far as offering quality online education and hybrid programs, or overall teaching and learning. As I mentioned, we're going to use the higher education standards as an example here for this particular workshop. So this one, we are right now in edition 6, and the higher education has 42 specific standards. They are all, each standard is research supported, and I can easily share in just a minute QM research library. It's interactive. It is a free resources. I understand, a lot of you are faculty, but you also have your own research agenda. So if you're interested in doing some online research, or online education research, or QM research before and after, we have resources to help you. The standards are all interrelated and centered on the students, and they can be applied to hybrid, online, or competence-based, and they are independent of what technology or tools you are using. So we will do an in-depth exercise on this when we move on at that point. So the two higher education standards fall under 8 general standards categories. So if you're a faculty, if you have been teaching online, or if you have lots of experience, just looking at the general standards, it will make a lot of sense to you, right? If it's an online course, when students logging in, you need to give them an overview orientation or start from here. And then each module unit needs to have the learning objectives, and then you have the design assessment, and then what instructional material you provide, the resources, and what kind of activity, and of course, what technology you're using to engage students. And of course, all kind of technical support, research support, academic support you need to provide to students. In the US, the issue of accessibility is very, very important because there's a federal mandate on that. But in my engagement with different communities, the accessibility is not a mandate yet in some regions, like Latin American or Southeast Asia access, but it is going to coming up more as a more and more important issue in the online environment. In the rubric, as we dive a little bit deeper down the road, you will see that the principle of alignment is very, very important. So the standards and the course design need to start with your learning objectives, or learning outcomes, or competencies, and however term that you use, because that's the target, that's the goal, that's where we want students to learn, what we want students to learn. Once you have that, and once you have those learning objectives measurable, then you have to think about, how am I going to assess my students? How am I going to know my students are learning along the way? So you have to design the assessment to be aligned exactly with the learning objectives. And then everything else in between, the content, certainly, the learning activities, and all of the tools that you have, all of these are to support your goal. The goal is to help students learn. We will talk more about that in just a few more minutes here. And just a little diagram to show you the peer review process I mentioned earlier. It is a peer review, means faculty review other faculties online or hybrid courses. And this is the cycle, and it's one of the underlying principles for QM is continuous improvement. So a faculty work with instructional designers to build a course, and then the institutions will submit the course for review. QM staff, like myself, we manage the process for you, but we are not eligible to review your course because it's conflict of interest, and it is because we are, as a staff member, we're not considered as your peer. Your peer is other faculties in the community. So a peer review team will be assembled, and there's one master review and 2 peer reviews, and one of them, at least one of them, has to be a content expert. So if your course is college algebra, for example, then one of the reviewers is a faculty member who teaches online college algebra course. And after the review ends, we'll provide you feedback. So either your course has already met the standards, and if not, there will be very specific recommendations in the final report for you to incorporate and improve in order to meet the standards. And then you can resubmit the course, and the course will be certified. Once your course is certified, it will be valid for 5 years. So these are the marks that QM certification marks for course at course level, and we also have a QM certification marks for programs. Now, programs is of course, we all know is more than courses. Courses are the foundation, the academic curriculum for the program. But if you are offering an online program, it takes more than just the courses themselves. You need to support the faculty, instructors before they teach those courses, during the time they're teaching, and certainly after. And your students are taking online courses, so you should not require them to come to campus or offices for everything. So you need to provide all the support they need. And also, the program design, teaching support, learner support is everything you put into the program. You invest into the program. What is the outcome? The outcome is the student, how they are learning, the learner success, the student success. So in the QM program review, we need evidence for each and every one of those 4 parts. And if any of you are interested, after today, you can email me and I'll be happy to share more information or have a conversation. Okay, so as I mentioned that everything, all the standards that we have are research-based, and the QM, the first thing that we always do is to collect data and do research. So over the past 18 years or so, yes, we will share our email. Over the past 18 years or so, we have expanded our community, and the community has done so much research before QM implementation, after QM implementation, and here's just some of the positive impact on students' learning, because that is our ultimate goal. So as you can see, if the course is QM reviewed and certified for course design, and then if the faculty are very well trained to be a very effective and engaging online instructor, then the student, you can see, improve the student success, their overall grades, improve engagement, interaction, etc., etc. So there are positive impacts from engaging with QM PDs and reviews, etc. From the institutional perspective, again, if you are a high-level officer, dean, and VP or even president, in order for the QM implementation to take off, in order to have positive impacts, your faculty, your instructional designers need your support. But over time, again, we have heard from our community the reasons why they want to adopt and adapt the QM process, so that these are some of their goals or some of their outcomes, actually. So starting from the top is to have QM as part of the strategic goals, and moving forward, as we know, although we are still in the pandemic, but we want to look forward and prepare ourselves for the future, because things like this is going to happen again. And now that our faculty are getting comfortable teaching online, and our students, they will be asking for it. Even if we do, the majority of us will go back indeed to the face-to-face classroom. But we all know interaction, engagement should and can happen outside the classroom. So moving forward, everything that we're going to do for teaching and learning will be in the digital environment. That means use certain technology to help all of us. So QM, the quality assurance process, become part of a strategic goal. And the data that you collect can be used as evidence for your institutional accreditation needs. Of course, if your institution has been doing online for a while, then you want to benchmark. You want to not only compare yourself to your peer institutions in your region, in your country, you can benchmark yourself to the international standards, which are QM standards. And also, in order to start or improve the culture of quality, because it is increasingly important, as I'm going to share in the next few slides, the top trends of higher education. So everything we do is centered on faculty, and our goal is to help students. Okay, so I'm going to take a little break here, and Dr. Senior, you want to take over and say a few slides here?
Sure, thank you. So in the aftermath, or in the middle of the beginning of the pandemic last year, because there were so many institutions that had not started yet any activities around their online offerings, QM developed a two-stage approach to provide some initial guidance, at least to step into the emergency remote teaching. One was to create a set, and we will share those with you, a set of guidelines to taking from the standards what's really most essential at this very moment. Meaning your classes ended or your semester is about to start and you cannot meet with your students, and in 1 week's time or in 2 weeks you need to go online and you've never done anything like that before. So obviously it's not the moment to study and implement the full list of 42 standards. So it's when we created these guidelines to at least take the essential elements, the actions that you need to consider in doing this emergency migration, and then follow that as a guardrail, if you will, to get you started in the semester. And then later on, then we developed a second set of guidelines. So once that's settled, once you are at least recover or reestablish communication with your learners, then you can start addressing other issues such as assessment, such as an interaction and the like. But from the very first, you need to know what the differences are.
Yeah, so this is supposed to where we're going to stop for activity 1, but I think we're going to move on for just a few more minutes, and then we'll come back to activity 1.
But let me interact something. Let's just take advantage, given that we have really a relatively sort of intimate group. It's not a massive group, so we can take advantage. And Jani is one of the participants who is already a peer reviewer, and she indicates in the chat that there are others also in the room that are peer reviewers. So I would like to give them the opportunity to also, based on the process and what Dr. Gao has expressed, what's your share some insights about your own process and how, in your role and in using these standards, what impact has it made, and what is your perspective of what it adds to the online offering? Let's start with you, Jenny.
Hi, good afternoon. So from my side, it's really just been so amazing to learn this. I've been an instructional designer since 2012 and became a peer reviewer in 2019. And it's really opened up. I've always kind of known about constructive alignment and all of that because I was a teacher and an ID, but using this rubric and looking at all the different standards and first looking at the alignment standards, etc., it's really helped me in helping others, because when people see the rubric at first, it's quite overwhelming. You kind of feel you really have to be perfect to be an educator. But once they go through it and they first look at those 6 alignment standards, then they see, okay, now I've actually been doing some of this all along. Um, you know, I'm doing it. So just have to make a few changes and a few more things to meet the more of the standards. So yeah, that's my experience, or a little bit of it.
Thank you, thank you. And you're right. It's really everything, especially with with a sudden rush to going remote. It may seem like everything is different and you can't cope with it, but you realize, as you said, as you look at the what's expected in terms of doing it effectively online, is that the things that you've been doing anyway. And as a matter of fact, even if you don't, once you start developing courses and having the precision by which the standards guide you in terms of the clarity of your connection with your activities and your assessments and like that alignment concept, you become a better faculty member on the face-to-face environment. And I've had lots of testimonies around that. I see that Tri Appingau shared the link to the standards also on the page, and also the checklist, this one that it's on screen. So Jenny, you mentioned that there are other peer reviewers here on this meeting. Can you identify yourselves, or you want to share some insights?
Fernanda, I think she's aiming at her husband sitting at office.
Okay, wonderful.
So,
excellent.
Not even close to one another, and she still manages to throw me under the bus. I guess I'm one. There's someone else. But yeah, I think we've at the NWU we've really found our whole team's done the course, and we all became reviewers. And I think what it's done is we're constantly from a research point of view looking at what's wrong, what can we do better, what can we do to better student success, where to start. And the rubric itself, as Yanni said, is a bit intimidating initially, but small starts and small changes makes the difference. And we've learned to focus modules that we don't necessarily need to certify yet, but just starting to make a difference and making it better. That's been our approach from day one. So yeah, but a real positive for anyone who's in the room that's thinking about it or contemplating it. Really, just as an instructional designer for almost 10 years, it really upskills you in a way that's indescribable.
That's great, and as well said too, in a sense that, well, two things I rescued from your comment. One is that you don't have to do everything at the same time, even if you're face-to-face traditional classroom environment. Let's say one semester you choose to improve your assessments, and then another semester you choose to expand and provide more variety to the learning activities. So it's an ongoing, never-ending process of improvement, and that's really the mentality that drives QM as well. It's not like one shot, you have to be perfect and then you forget about it. No, even courses that have been certified have been there are spaces and room for improvement for adopting better practices that you find somewhere else, especially in the community that is sharing examples. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, so then the second part.
Granny's recipe. Yes, definitely. I'm
not following. Yeah, yes, you're right. Granny's recipe. Yes. Actually, that's why I promote it too, because I find, I don't know what's the scenario, what's the situation in South Africa regarding instructional design. Probably it's more advanced than what I find in Central and South America. I was saying that at the beginning of this session that my program chair for my instructional design program at the University of Illinois was from South Africa, so I know that he was well involved in distance learning and in instructional design. But in places like South and Central America and the Caribbean, the discipline of instructional design has just been discovered. with the opening of online learning. And therefore, it does help. It does become a granny's recipe to be able to at least follow these guidelines. And in the process, you learn what you need to do as a faculty and also as an instructional designer.
So do you want to take a little break and let me continue, Dr.
Yes,
Senior?
please. Carry on.
Yeah, so as Dr. Senior introduced, that the checklist was quickly put together to help the entire international community to move to from face-to-face to emergency remote teaching. So that was in March of 2020. And then by the summer, around June-ish last year, our community gave us feedback. The checklist is great. It helped all the faculty to a certain degree. However, they start to be concerned about the quality of what they are actually doing. Just by uploading all your chapter notes or PowerPoint to an LMS does not mean, this is a quality online teaching. So the community asked us to offer something that help the entire institution or the faculty to transition from remote teaching to incorporate some quality elements of online teaching. So it may not necessarily, be able to meet all the QM standards yet. However, you need to have something in between that's transition from remote teaching to quality online. So I'm going to put the link here to the course design guide. And there are two versions of it. One is the higher education, one is K-12 community. So let me walk through here just very quickly. So the goal is really to guide the faculty, particularly those faculty who had never had any online teaching experience before the pandemic. They were all traditional face-to-face instructor. Now they're teaching remotely or trying to teach, and help them to transition them into providing an online environment for their students that are really student-centered or learner-centered environment. Okay, so there's two versions. So if you go to the link in the chat, you will get this page. And as you can see, that was in the summer and the fall of 2020. So in this guide, the guide is pretty long, and Dr. Senior and I decided not to use this for our in-depth activity because it kind of looked overwhelming, because we're trying to provide all the smaller step details in there. But the major components of this guide really is, first of all, as a faculty, and as I mentioned earlier, that the most important thing is to align your learning objectives with your assessment, right? So that is the first thing. And then you want to align your content, your learning activities, etc., etc. So that's the first one. That's the course. It's kind of like a course mapping with learning objectives and your assessment. Then once you have all those content and resources available, then you need to start thinking, how am I going to engage my students? So everything needs to have a purpose, and everything needs to be meaningful to students. You want to connect why they are doing this thing, why they're reading this, why they're watching this, and what is the purpose of this homework or assignment or project. So you want to engage the students. And then last but not least, once you have all of those components, then you want to organize them coherently so that when students log into the online course, they know where to start and what is due when. So your course needs to be organized in a module or unit or in a timeline of weeks. So the main goal of this guide, and it is a basic course design guide, but once your course is very well designed, as faculty, you will spend less time answering students' questions about, where do I find this? How am I going to complete this? When is something due? You can actually focus to answer their questions about the content you are actually teaching, and you do not have to serve or as a technical support. So that's the purpose of this guide. So, Dr. Senior, are we ready to actually do this activity too?
Yes, let's do this.
Okay. So,
Right.
yeah, go ahead. I will let you take over.
Yeah. So what we want to do is really use this more as a lab for discussion. If you have not seen the rubric before, and luckily we have others that have seen the rubric before, and all our peer reviewers, is the ability to give yourself some time, divide you into small groups, allow you to download, and there's a link for the, I know, Yaping, could you please put link
Yes,
this way
I
up
will
at the
post.
beginning?
Yes, I will post again.
That last link is the link directly to this document, which is the last version, the sixth version of the rubrics, with 8 major standards and 42 specific standards. So the activity that we want to engage you in is we're going to divide you in group. First, go to this link, download a copy if you don't have a copy already. We are going to assign you to smaller groups to give you an opportunity, to review the rubric and also have a small discussion. And time is limited, so basically the suggestion is scan through the document, look for things that, especially starting with the general standards, not every single standard. Look for those general standards and pay attention to things that either raise questions for you, like, well, what exactly is this? Or, yes, I'm doing this, but I'm not sure how is it done here. Or also the issue of alignment. I'm make a note, for example, there's some core standards that, in my view, provide the backbone really for the design of a course. And that has to do, with the objectives, and specifically standards. Once you download, you can look at standard, just make a note now, specifically look at standards 2.1 and 2.2, which address objectives at the course level, and then objectives at the module, unit, or weekly level, whatever the term or structure that you use as your institution. And then look in terms of alignment, how that relates to standard 3.1, which has to do with assessment, how well they talk to each other. And then finally, with also standard 5.1, which has to do with activities. So think of it as a triangle, between the objectives being clear, precise, and written from the perspective of a learner, to the assessment that validates or provides evidence that such objective is met. And then what's in between is how do you create the milestones, so to make sure that the activities that you're actually asking your students to complete indeed will allow them to achieve the objective and also demonstrate it through the assessment. And that's usually set done. Typically, of course, in every course, we have activities, yes, we have materials, yes, we have assessments, but not necessarily the assessment is the best evidence or indicator of what we're expecting our learners to achieve. So here's the download. If you haven't, just download the copy of the standards, scan through it. You can look through it entirely or focus on these standards that I suggested and their alignment. And we're going to divide you in small groups, and if we can set them up, and maybe given the numbers, maybe we get groups of divide them in 4 groups or in 5 groups.
Yeah,
so
4,
3 or 5
4
4
would be
people
good.
per.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good. Yeah.
Yeah,
And
I will
in your
add
smaller
one.
group, yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Yes, I will add one more word before we go into smaller groups. On this standards page, just want you to know these are the standards only, and we actually have rubric, meaning each standard has very detailed annotations to it. But this is for member institutions only. Now, if you look at the page on the very right side, there's a number assigned to each standard. So when we were mentioning earlier about course review, so each course review for higher education is using this set of standards. So in order for your course to meet QM standards and be certified, there are two criteria. One is your course meet all of the essential standards. And the essential standards are the ones that if you look at the right side, it has one to 3 points. So we have essential, which have like 3 points, and then we have important, very important standards that has 2 points, and important standards which has 1 point. So one of the criteria for a course to be QM certified is to meet all the 3-point essential standards. There are 22 or 23 of them. Criteria number 2 for your course to be QM certified is out of the total of 100 points, your course needs to have at least 85 or more total points. So these are the two criteria. So for this workshop, if you want to focus on the essential standards just to start with, that will be fine too. Okay, I see a question somewhere.
Yes, it's how much time. I'm going to sort of suggest that we allow you to work 20 minutes because that gives you enough time, A, for you to do your own review, to discuss within your own group best practices, whether you are successfully meeting some of these standards and what things you're doing that are exceptional, or whether you have questions about exactly what that standard means of how do you go about completing it. And then be ready to, so for one person in the group to be the spokesperson or
Yeah, I think we lost Dr. Senior for just a second. So I will continue. Yes,
I lost the connection for a few seconds.
Yeah.
So
okay.
Individual work, scan through the standards to discuss in your small groups either questions or things that you're doing that are consistent with the standard, and then 3, then be ready to share the insights with the larger audience. Have one person to represent the group and share the insights from your, and then out of that, the intention is that we will generate, as we sort of harvest this insights, generate a more deeper discussion and go into specific standards or questions that you have.
I've noticed that a few faculty have left us here, so maybe just like 1, 2, 3 groups, maybe, because I'm seeing
Sure.
18.
Sure.
And I don't know if these 18s include us or if
probably
these
includes us.
Probably
includes us.
Right.
I'm sure it includes
yeah.
us. Yeah.
Yeah, it does include all of us. So we are going to, if it's okay with you, then we are going to divide everyone in 3 groups. Will that be fine?
Okay.
Yes.
Yes, that would be fine.
Yes,
That'd be perfect. And
Okay.
we do not need to be in those smaller groups, but if anybody want us to join them, they can, and then we can go to their smaller groups. Also, by the end of the 20 minutes, if they feel they need a few more minutes, then we should allow them to continue their conversation. Then we can have them come back. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And then we are going to put you now. Okay. Oh, sorry. working, you will be able to see the groups on the right-hand side. So if you scroll down, you will see, if you look at group 2, for instance, there's a green arrow at the right-hand side, and it says join group 2 or join group 3. So you will be able to go into some of the groups in that way. So just scroll down and you see, I see that Yanni, for instance, is in group 3. So if you click on the arrow on the right hand side, then it says join group 3, then you can join it.
Oh, I see. Okay, great. Great, great. Okay. Okay. So we have 3 groups. Okay, that's good. On my chat, I'm still seeing 2 I knew, but I'm not actually seeing the 2 new messages. Now, if somebody join us right now, can they be put in a specific smaller groups?
Yes, they can. So we
Okay.
then, if
It's
somebody
probably
joins,
better to assign them to an existing group. Yeah.
Right.
So we will assign them then to an existing group. If somebody joins at this stage, I'll do that.
Yeah. Okay,
Or we
good.
will do. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, because I'm seeing group 2 now only have 3 people. Group 3 have 4.
3's good.
Yeah. This batch of participants are very good. They are very interactive, very engaging. I'm enjoying it. So right now we're not being recorded, right, Anki?
Sorry, we can stop the recording now.
Yeah, I think we
Sure.
should.
Yeah, I think so. Okay, Lee, are you going to stop? Must I stop it?